I've been singing my praises to Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord for a long time now, and it's no secret that I love the game and I love what Taleworlds have done. Bringing in a sequel to Warband, which is a massive feat to do, one of the most beloved games not only in the medieval community but on Steam in general, and I would say on the most part they succeeded. But this video isn't about that. I thought I'd just give a little bit of my opinion and a little bit of a chat about what I believe the future for Bannerlord is, because it's nowhere near done. I have some queries and questions about the decisions that Taleworlds are taking at the moment, and I'd love to know what you guys think about it. But without further ado, let's get into the future of Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. Released on March 31st, 2020, it was a lockdown epic. It became the best-selling game on Steam of the year and was one of the top 10 most played games with concurrent players for weeks on end. It was a massive release. Taleworlds took what they did with Warband and they amped it up to 11. They pretty much put in most of the core mechanics were still there that made the game so popular, yet they expanded on it with new diplomacy, new features, bigger battles, and of course, gorgeous-looking maps. But for me at least, the game has sizzled out a little bit. It's practically single player only at this point. Yes, there are multiplayer elements, but we'll get onto why a little bit later, that I think it's not really that worth harking on about. But I think it's the same with a lot of people. We've played through the single player, we've played every way you can possibly doing it with each faction, the Empire, the Azerai, the Kurzates, the Battanians. We've looked at each possibility and way to play. But what's next? You see, Taleworlds have carried on bringing out updates, and it's been fine, but every update that comes out, I feel like I'm getting more and more fed up and just disappointed with what's coming out. Yes, it's mostly bug fixes, which is necessary for a game that is still in early access, but the content that is coming out is not something, if I'm going to be blunt, that I think anyone really cares about. Yeah, okay, Oathsworn now have more athleticism than riding skills. Great, fantastic. You can now set to follow caravans around the map instead of having to micromanage each individual click. Great, good. But these aren't things that I think need to be shouted out about, because I feel like with every update that isn't something big and important, people are moving further and further away from the game. The only thing really keeping me there at the moment, and as you've probably seen from my videos lately, are the mods. We're getting some really interesting and new mods being brought out from developers that have been spending a lot of time working on these things in the last few months. We did get modding tools from Taleworlds, but from talking to developers myself, everyone's been saying the same thing. It's not enough. They can make some cool mods, they can reskin some troops, but they can't do anything worth of note yet. They can't make guns with new reloading animations. They can't make complete custom maps with custom scripts or NPCs that give out different missions. That's just not in the modding tools in the current state. All we can do is reskin troops and remake maps, and whilst that's great for now, it's not going to last very well in the future. However, I don't think all hope is lost. You see, when we went into early access and it was announced by Taleworlds that Bannerlord would go into this state on Steam on March the 31st of 2020, they did mention that they are hoping that it won't be in early access for much longer than a year. Now, of course, that will make it a few more months until we see a full release of Bannerlord, but we haven't heard anything yet. But I think we need to give it a bit of leeway. You see, COVID has been and had a massive strain on all industries, but especially gaming industries where you're trying to work on games together in a collaborative project. But now everyone's having to work remotely, it's going to have some strain on it. And whilst Taleworlds have done a fantastic job of keeping up with updates and everything like that, it is going to slow it down somewhat. So I think we're probably going to wait a little bit longer. But why is that important? Why do we care at this point for a release date? Well, because the things that they mentioned could come with it. One of them being full modding support. If you guys haven't checked out, please go and watch my interview with the Separatist Crisis modding team, as they stated they would love full modding support in order to put in and implement some new cool things that they have ready. Jet troopers, making working jetpacks that can be used throughout. Tanks, reload animations, aim down sights for blaster rifles, using the Force within the game and having Jedi that can utilize Force powers through the battles. These aren't possible yet because you can't get into the nitty-gritty details of Bannerlord's engine and the way it works, creating new scripts in order to create new mechanics throughout the game. But along with this is something that I am waiting for: private multiplayer servers, being able to create your own games, have your own maps, and put your own mods within it. Then putting clans with training, siege battles, line battles, everything that we saw with Warband, that is the chance for it to come back to Bannerlord and really boost the player base that has been lacking in the past. This is the future we need for Bannerlord, and this is the future that I want to feel like is coming. but there's been nothing on it. Taleworlds haven't told us what's going on. It's been update after update of useless little tidbits that, yes, are great in the overall game, but I feel like no one really cares about at this point every time there's a patch note. We want to hear about these main things. Where's the replay mode? What's going on with that? That was announced way back in 2014 in that first gameplay, but we haven't seen anything. Literally nothing on that since. What is going on, Taleworlds? Where are these big factors which are keeping so many people from jumping back in the game? I know I am, and loads of people I've spoken to are just sitting there. We're waiting for big mods, Persistent World, Full Invasion 3. We're waiting for private servers that we can buy to then get people on and make these line battles and community events. This is the future of the game. These inclusions will keep the game running for years, much like Warband did, but we don't have them. Unfortunately, that's why Bannerlord's lacking. And look, if it carried on the way it is right now, in the state it is right now, I don't think in a year's time anyone will care about the game. But I know people are holding out for these new implementations and features, much like I am, and we are ready to utilize them as soon as we hear about them. But at the moment, it's radio silence. So what is the future of Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord? Well, first off, it is going to be more of a platform. That is my hope, at least. Much like Warband was, the native game was well done and somewhat polished, yet people didn't really play it for that. They used it as a platform in order to create their own stories and their own eras, going into the world of Middle-earth and creating your own stories alongside the films and the books that we've all acknowledged and seen throughout the years, going into the Star Wars universe and using those characters and heroes to create our own pathways throughout the campaign. It may seem like a strange comparison, but Mount & Blade feels, at least to me, a bit like a game like Minecraft, where the game is just a basis for so much more that can be put on top of it in order to create this layered cake of different ways to play in multiplayer, single player, or what we might see eventually, or what is planned, cooperative modes in the campaign. But all this comes down to Taleworlds. All this comes down to when will the game get a full release? When will it get that second wind in order to bring players back that initially played it for a few hours and then dropped it because they'd already experienced this in Warband? When is that going to happen? Taleworlds, please, let us know. Even if it's just reassurance that these features are coming. Let's be honest, whilst we're all expecting multiplayer private servers, Taleworlds haven't even mentioned that these are on their way. I feel like as a community, we need to hear something. Rather than just patch note after patch note, we need to hear some real talk about what's coming, what we can expect, and what features will be in the game eventually. But hey, of course, it's just my opinion and it's just my thoughts. I'm not the spokesperson for the community. If you guys have some different thoughts about what the future for this game is going to be, please leave it down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, if you like this type of content, and leave a like on the video. If you don't, leave a dislike and tell me why. I'll probably cry, but who cares? It will make the videos better. But other than that, I will see you in the next one.